So summer's approaching, and a lot of us are going to take to the roads or even take to the seas. Now, I wanted to talk about travel insurance, especially if you're taking a big trip, whether it be abroad or on a cruise. And an example, a really sad one that comes to mind, involves a cruise that my secretary took a couple of years ago. She had been planning, like for years and years, to take this big trip. She never went anywhere. She lived with her mother, she was older, she cared for her mother, and her mother had recently passed on, so she was going to do this for herself. So she and her best friend were preparing for a big cruise in the Caribbean. And I was excited for her because, I'd seen her not really enjoying herself for long periods of time. So she was taking snorkeling lessons and some other things, and finally the day comes, she and her friend take off for Miami, and then they set sail. I said to her, hey, listen, do you have travel insurance? Because maybe it's something you want to have. It's a big undertaking. There are a lot of moving parts here. Anything could happen. It's a modest cost. The way insurance works, of course, is you don't like paying for it when you don't use it, but when you need it, I'm sure glad you have it. And she actually got it. I was grateful for that because what happened was this. It was the first night of an 8-day cruise. She's in the casino, and she goes back to her room to see her roommate, finds her roommate dead on the bed, honest to God. And there was nowhere they could take the body because they were in the Caribbean, and it's kind of largely unaccountable down there. My secretary was an older woman. They were not going to leave her and the body, in Nassau or something like that. They put her friend's body in the ship's morgue, and my friend had to suffer through the next 7 days of the cruise that she'd waited her life to take with her roommate in the morgue and herself alone in her cabin. It was perfectly horrible. So she gets back to the States and tells me what happened, and I couldn't have felt worse for her. So I said, well, you got that travel insurance. Can we take a look at your policy to see whether maybe there's some language in there that covers it? And nobody ever reads their contracts. They never read their documents. They certainly never read insurance policies. But I do, and they're not crippling and onerous. I mean, you can actually make sense of them if you spend 10 minutes. And I did. And there was a provision in there having to do with a ruined trip and death, and I forget the language that it actually invoked, but it went right to this. I'm like, you know what? That's a good one. But just as importantly, she'd waited a little while. I'm like, there's probably a notice period within which you need to make your claim. So I took a look under notices, and sure enough, there was. It was a pretty short timeline, and we had like 2 days left. So I put together a claim right away. We got it right in, and she ended up getting something back on her policy for what she suffered through on account of her friend. So, an insurance policy is just another contract. You got to read it. You got to mind it. You have to know it's there to help you. That is why you get insurance. And if you end up having to trigger it, you'll be really, really glad you have it. So pay mind to what you have and use it if you need to.